is what do you want to see more of in 2026? When it comes to the webinars, we are going all out. You'll find out here, Prob is living what we're hoping for, and it's like laying everything on the table. So I want to know, what do you want to see more of? Is it education in SEO? Is it the details of paid ads? Is it tactical stuff from guys like Prob and Tim Krupp? Like, what are you wanting to see more of?
We track everything daily and we measure it weekly. So I look at it on a weekly basis in all of our status calls. But at the same time, in terms of decision making, we typically do that on a monthly basis. You want to gather enough data over a long enough period for you to make a decisive decision. All too often, people will try to make decisions on having one good day and one bad day and one good day and bad day. Well, you can't keep pivoting because that's not really a sustainable way to measure to measure the performance of a business. I'll go into a bit more later, but definitely you want to track on a daily basis just to make sure you have all of the data points. You want to review it on weekly calls with the leadership of the respective department heads. But in terms of actually making strategy shifts, I would do that on a monthly.
We are live. Good to see everybody today. I hope you guys are having a wonderful December. Just smelling Christmas around the season corner. I don't even know what that means. Thanks all for joining. Let's make sure get this live and going, and let's make sure everyone can chat, because this is going to be a chatty McChat, because there is a lot of really insightful stuff that Prob's sharing today. Very excited about it. Make sure everyone can chat in the chat button. Go ahead and say hello if you can chat. Make sure that blue button says to everybody, not to the host and panelist, please. Chatty McChatterson is here. Kyle Pearson is here. Well, my team is here, ready to go. All right, Nathan, good to see you. Bill, good to see you. Joey, hello. Get rid of these fireflies, please. Already done. See, Danae's great. Having good people. Thank you, guys. Hello. Awesome. Man, we are ready to go. Do we have this screen shared? Yeah, first off, Stanley, host and panelist, make sure it says everybody. Michael, good to see you. I just want to say thank you guys for being here today. Going into the end of the year, how exhausting and busy we all are, probably both in personal lives, but also in our business as well. Derek, good to see you. There you go, Stanley. And I just want to say thank you. This year was the first year we decided to do webinars, and we've had 12 killer webinars. And I wanted to find out from those of you guys who have joined, which one was your favorite? Go ahead and put it in the chat. I'd love to hear which one was your favorite. But we did 12 killer webinars. We've had so much good feedback about these webinars. I've been very encouraged, so I want to thank you for encouraging us. And I'll share a little bit about what's coming up in 2026. Yeah, best note taker. Go ahead and hit the next slide, Prob. We're going to give another 2 more minutes for people to come in. What I would love to know is, what do you want to see more of in 2026? When it comes to the webinars, we are going all out. You'll find out here, Prob is living what we're hoping for, and it's like laying everything on the table. So I want to know, what do you want to see more of? Is it education in SEO? Is it the details of paid ads? Is it tactical stuff from guys like Prob and Tim Krupp? Like, what are you wanting to see more of? Let's see here. Tactical stuff. Yeah, what do you mean by the tactical stuff? Let's get deeper. Explain that more. Another AI and SEO webinar. What specifically, Stanley? I'd love to hear that. So I want to find out. So what we have in store, I'm going to let people answer my follow-up questions first. What we have in store, get your guys' AI assistants. Can you get me a shirt that says no AI assistants in the chat? And I want to wear that. Financial strategies and analysis. That's great. Fantastic. Find out all the constraints of the moving business. Dive deep on each one. Okay. I like that. Yeah. My hope is to lean into more of the details of SEO, AI, chat, PPC, websites. I want to lean into that, but I also want to lean into specifically more specifics. And this today is Prob, and he's going to be joining. Actually, let's just transition right now, because it's a perfect transition. Hit that slide. I want to dive into the specifics. I don't want to stand on the rooftop here and say, guys, we've got to track KPIs. I don't want to do that because we all know we need to track KPIs. I don't even want to get down into giving exactly the KPIs we need to track, although that's part of the process. Okay. Here's the deal. I want to know exactly how I, as a business owner, need to start thinking about this. What decisions do I need to make because of these KPIs, whether they're high or low? What decisions do I need to make? How do I make better business decisions as an owner because of these KPIs? So Prob is going to be the spitting leading example of where we're going deeper into and what I love to see from the stage. And so I am excited. Prob, thank you for being here. I am excited to introduce you. For those of you guys who don't know Prob, first of all, we're probably the top two most gorgeous looking people that have joined a webinar this year in 2025. We'll put that aside. Prob is the COO of Mobileio Brands. So he runs this entire Mobileio Brands company, and he's the CEO of MoveRight CRM, which we're going to go into a little bit at the end. Probably I'm going to pick your brain on that CRM and hear from you about that. But this guy knows a lot. He knows a lot about moving companies. He knows a lot about business. I think it's very important to understand that although we like to say moving companies are unique, they are a business. They have metrics and KPIs. And Prob, I believe, is one of the leading experts on how to have a pulse on these businesses, our own businesses with KPIs. So, Prob, thanks for being here, man. I appreciate it so much.
Thank you.
I
All
I'd
right.
like I'd like to just hand it over to you. We've got a lot to go through with little time. Everyone's here. Let's just jump right into it and take it away. Everyone, thank Prob on the chat for being here today, and I'll let you take it away, and I'll stop talking. I promise.
Thanks for the great introduction, Travis. I appreciate it. I appreciate the compliments of my good looks. You also do quite well. So hey, cheers to that. Right. Thanks for everyone for joining my presentation. I'm going to go over a lot of KPIs. I didn't go over every KPI in the moving business, but I picked 5 major categories, and I just kind of want to go into them with more detail. If you have any questions at the end, you'll see my email and contact information, but I encourage an open dialogue. I want everyone to ask questions, to walk away feeling like this was the best webinar yet. No pressure to the other presenters, but I'm here to win. So KPIs, why do they matter? Well, most moving companies, in my experience, have been basing how they operate based on feelings rather than facts. A lot of these legacy businesses have just grown because they've been in business for so long, not necessarily because they've been tracking the right metrics. When I was going through my journey at You Move Me, my first year actually running a business was my toughest year, and I actually gave up and I went to go do something else because I actually didn't know how to track the metrics properly. And I was like, if I don't know how to run a business by the numbers, I shouldn't be in business. But the moment you start tracking the right metrics, clarity replaces chaos. I can't tell you how many times that I'd be up late at night being like, what the hell am I going to do? What am I supposed to be measuring? Why am I not figuring this out? But when I came back to You Move Me, it was my number one focus to become an operational expert. And I've been working at the HQ it was a total of 4 years, and then for the private equity arm for 2 years, and now the public company for 1 year. I'm now the public company COO, and I didn't get there by not focusing obsessively on measuring what matters and understanding every year in this business when it comes to KPIs. The companies that grow the fastest are the ones that measure consistently and act decisively. I'm just going to move my camera here. Just give me 1 second. And the companies that stick around the longest are the ones that continue to monitor. It's not like you can have a great year and think, okay, everything is kind of working and that's all we need to do. You need to maintain consistency with this. Otherwise, the moment you fall off, someone's going to be there to take your place. So why metrics matter? So metrics give you visibility. Without them, you're literally leading in the dark. Clarity creates competitive advantage by showing you where you're leaking profit. I think this is the most important line that I want to acknowledge here. It's like you think that it might just be labor or it might just be fuel areas that you leak profit. I go through the P&L line by line when we're looking at acquisitions, and every line matters. You might think that 0.5% or 0.25% wouldn't matter, but if you add it up over millions of dollars in revenue, it adds up very quickly. A lot of those 0.5 and 1% totals that can lead up to being like 4 or 5% difference on an NOI basis. And data-driven leaders make decisions faster and better decisions that translate into real growth. So let's look at the KPI map I built. Credit to Gemini for actually building the slide deck. I put all the content in, but at the same time, I'm not a designer, so I just want to clarify that. So the 5 KPI groups that we're going to go over are customer experience KPIs, operational KPIs, revenue and profitability KPIs, sales center, as well as marketing. So let's look at revenue and profitability first. Oh, sorry, Travis, did you have a question?
Yeah, I was gonna say go back to that. I
Sure.
love the way this looks here. When you're looking at the KPIs, and this may be an early question, but how are all of these? You're something you're looking at daily, or is this like, hey, I'm looking at marketing weekly or monthly, or what's the exercise of this?
Yeah, it's a great question. We track everything daily and we measure it weekly. So I look at it on a weekly basis in all of our status calls, but at the same time, in terms of decision making, we typically do that on a monthly basis. You want to gather enough data over a long enough period for you to make a decisive decision. All too often, people will try to make decisions on having one good day and one bad day and one good day and bad day. Well, you can't keep pivoting because that's not really a sustainable way to measure the performance of a business. I'll go
Mhm.
into a bit more later, but definitely you want to track on a daily basis just to make sure you have the all of the data points. You want to review it on weekly calls with the leadership of the respective department heads. But in terms of actually making strategy shifts, I would do that on a monthly.
Cool. Thanks.
No problem. So let's go over some revenue and profitability KPIs that I look at and I think are very important. The first one would be year over year job growth. And the biggest indicator of this is, are we growing compared to last year with marketing spend remaining constant? And the reason why I say marketing spend remaining constant is if your jobs are growing and you're spending the same amount of money, that likely means that you're increasing market share. And that's a great indicator of the performance and the health of your business. The next thing would be average job size. Is our average job size increasing or decreasing? And if it's decreasing, is this a function of marketing or is it a function of sales? The reason why I say it's going to be a function of marketing is, are we targeting the right type of customers? And the reason why it could be a function of sales is, are we leading with discounts in order to get our customers? Which leads me into the next KPI that I think is very important is discount percentage. And it's not just the how much percent we're giving on each job, it's the total number of jobs that are getting a discount and then what the average discount rate is. How often do we need to discount to book jobs? Labor rate percentage, which is the biggest driver of profitability from a variable cost standpoint, fuel percentage, and are we building our routes efficiently? I think the big thing with this is I always thought that fuel, if it's within a couple of percent of what it needs to be, then it's fine. Honestly, this is one of the biggest spots of leakage that I've seen in businesses that I've ran. And the more efficient you are building your routes, the more money you can save. And let's be honest, the price of fuel isn't going to go down anytime soon. So it's better to correct it now than worry about it later. Supply sales percentage, are we charging for the supplies that we're using on site? I can't tell you how many P&Ls I've looked at where, let's say, sale revenue is 3% of it's 3% of revenue, but the cost of the supplies is 5% of revenue. So there's 2% bleed just because we're not charging of stuff on site. Gross profit, are we consistently above 50%? Honestly, the marker is between 50 and 55%. Later in the slides, you'll see me talk about it at 55%. But at bare minimum, we want to have a 50% gross profit margin when we're looking at our businesses.
And Prob, define gross profit just so we're all talking the same language here.
Yeah, no problem. So that's revenue minus your variable costs. So that's with your labor, your fuel, anything that's actually consumed on the job basis, anything that's a cost of the goods for the job itself.
So
And then
so
we're
just and I was going to
sorry.
say so we're not including truck insurance, truck maintenance, or any of those things.
No, like warehousing, any of those fixed costs that are generally the same that aren't actually applicable to the job basis aren't included in this. This is just about all the inputs that are related to the cost of the actual job. You can include marketing in this as well because marketing can be a function of the cost of sales as well. And then the last one, which I think is the most important one, because let's call a spade what is for a spade. Everyone wants to sell their moving business at one point, and so NOI is actually the biggest indicator. And NOI is net operating income. This doesn't factor in depreciation and interest in it, but at the same time, this gives you an understanding of the operating profit of a business after the fixed costs are factored in for stuff like Travis just mentioned: truck maintenance, truck insurance, lease payments, warehousing, etc.
Go back real quick. I've got a
Sure.
question. So that labor rate, you talk about how the labor rate is the biggest driver of profitability. Why is that? And then what is coming to your mind when you want to fix that? Like when it goes up or down, like is down always good? Like if I suddenly bought a moving company today and I'm trying to run it based off these KPIs, how do I look at that labor rate percentage?
That's a great question. The number one thing is just to look at the consistency of what the rate is coming in at, right? If you have a lot of variation of like it going from 25% to 30%, back down to 24%, up to 32%, that means you're not actually managing your labor effectively and you're just kind of throwing crews together. The reason
Mm,
why the labor rate is the biggest driver of profitability is after, in terms of your variable cost, it's the largest variable cost that you have, right? Labor can typically go as low as 22%, go as high as 35%, depending on the markets that you're in. And if you're trying to generate 55% net profit, well, let's do the numbers, right? 100 minus 55 is 45. And of that 45, 35% of it is labor. So that is the lion's share of what your variable cost indicators can be. And if you can lower it into the low 20s or mid 20s, then you've got a great business because you're adding a lot more variance where you're giving a little self a bit more grace when it comes to supply sales or fuel percentage because you're offsetting it with just managing your labor effectively.
so you're not adding labor into the variable cost of the move.
I am like, so it's, I'm just saying like when you want to have the profit level. So it'd be if you want to look at it from a gross profit perspective, like 100 being the revenue minus let's say 35% for your labor, that leaves you 65% to cover
Mm,
your fixed costs. But if your gross profit goal is 50%, that only leaves 15% for everything else. Right. So of all the drivers, it is the biggest driver. And it's not about getting it to the lowest number every single day. It's to have the most consistent result because then you can work on lowering the baseline over and over and over again. But all too often, we have people that are having like a great labor rate 3 days, 4 days in a week, or 2 weeks out of the month, but then they start to fall off. And then the labor rate on average in the latter 2 weeks will go up and it brings the average up on a monthly basis. So
mm.
that goes back to the whole principle of you have to track everything daily and you have to measure it all weekly. And then if you need to make some strategic changes, like you should know how many people you need to hire by the third week of the month for the previous month or for the next month, sorry, because that way you'll know if your labor is trending up. That means too many guys are going into overtime. I need to hire more guys. And how many people would I need to hire in order to bring my labor rate down to what it was in the first 2 weeks?
Got it. Okay, that's great. Thanks for sharing that.
No problem.
Oh, Derek asked national average for labor. So are you looking at national averages for labor for all your locations, or is that something that's like it's all going to be dependent on each city and demographic?
It's a great question. And yeah, I would not lean on a national average. Look at California, for example. They have more regulations than anyone. San Francisco Bay Area, the average cost to hire a mover is going to be much higher in San Jose than it would be in, let's say, Oklahoma City, right? So if we tried, that's comparing apples and oranges. What you have to look at is what do you think is the most consistent percentage you can be at, and then try to operate within it. And if you see that your labor is consistently like above a 30 to 35% threshold, the reality is you have to charge more to offset that cost because if you can't pay anyone any less, well, you have to have a business that makes money. And a business doesn't really make money at 35%. So in each of our locations, we do it on a location by location basis. But let's say a territory, let's say we have 5 locations in the Midwest, they're all going to roughly be around the same percentage because all markets are similar at that point. But at the same time, you can't compare a major metro, like let's say in LA, for example, to a smaller market as well. Because like let's say LA versus St. Louis, there's going to be a big difference in terms of cost of labor and also tariffs and regulations. Some I know some states have tariffs in terms of the maximum amount that they can charge, which is regulated by the state. So they're kind of fixed in terms of what they can charge from a labor perspective. So they have to get creative on how we can offset that labor cost with stuff like consumables, which I'll go into later, or making sure you charge a transaction fee for every transaction that you're doing that requires a card payment.
Cool. Appreciate it.
No problem. So let's look at year over year job growth and what it tells you. So when jobs are up and marketing is up, that means you're growing with your spend, right? We're spending more money, jobs are going up, it's pretty consistent. We're not seeing the variation in terms of the percentage of money, marketing that we're spending on revenue going up in relation to the jobs. It's just as we continue to grow, we reinvest more and we grow a little bit more. But if your jobs are going up and your marketing cost is flat and you haven't increased it compared to last year, the reality is you're probably gaining market share because on the same amount of spend, you're getting more jobs. If jobs are down, but marketing costs are going up, that means your competitors are outselling your salespeople. Because if you're spending more than you were last year and you're getting booking less jobs, that means that they're just doing a better job, and you need to look at your internal sales process to make sure that nothing is wavered there. And that's why it goes back into being so important and tracking KPIs on a regular basis, right? Because then you can compare last month's numbers, even last year's numbers to year over year numbers. Like, hey, what was my conversion in June of 2024? And how does that compare to June of 2025? And then you can compare June of 2025 to June of 2026. If jobs are going down and marketing is flat, that means that competition is outspending you to gain market share. That means that you can't expect to spend the same amount you did last year and for jobs to go up or stay similar. In a lot of our markets, after interest rates have just kind of stayed the same or gone down very, very small amounts. I know it's been a lot more aggressive in Canada than it has been in the US, but at the same time, it's not that cheap. And it's not like the post COVID boom where interest rates were at an all time low. So people are, and not as many people are buying houses. So that means that competition is willing to pay more for every lead that they get to make sure that they can at least have enough jobs to feed their teams. And what it's
Yeah.
building is sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
It's just building a very, very competitive environment where a lead might have cost you $50 and now it costs you $80. That doesn't mean your marketing agency is doing a bad job. That just means that more people are willing to pay more for that lead.
Hey man, say that one more time. No, just kidding. You were talking about marketing here. I've got to ask. Host spotlight my video for everyone. Okay, I've got to ask. So like, marketing is up, but jobs are down if you're comparing, let's say, 2022 to today. So how does an owner think through this? How do we vet or think through like, what do I need to do, and how does this come into, how are you thinking through it when it's like the overall economy is softer, so there is some kind of comparison of where the economy's at, where just everything is at an average? How do you think through that?
I didn't expect to give a plug for Rotate Digital so early, but I will,
Stop.
because one of the things that I think about a lot when it comes to that is like, what is my lead attribution in terms of branded clicks versus non-branded clicks? Because a branded keyword search is going to be a lot cheaper than a non-branded one, right? So if I'm looking at my jobs going down, but my marketing cost is going up, but my overall percentage of non-branded clicks is also going up, that means I need to do a better job in terms of advertising in my local market in order to make sure that I can drive more branded clicks. And if you don't have that segmentation from your marketing agency, well, then they're actually setting you up for failure. Right? The number one biggest thing when it comes to a marketing agency is attribution. The better the attribution, the more informative decisions you can make. The more vague the attribution, then how is a business operator supposed to know where to put resources if they don't know what to do?
I love it. Thank you, sir.
No problem. Next, let's talk about average job size and what it tells you. So when average job size is up and marketing is up, that means that we're paying more to get higher paying customers. It's not necessarily a bad thing, honestly, because the bigger the average job size, the higher likelihood you have in order to break even in your slower months and just on every job that you do. I remember you moved me many, many years ago where our average job size was sub $1,000. And it's like, if your average job size is sub 1,000, that means you're doing a lot of jobs at $500 or $600. When you're doing jobs at $500, $600 after covering all your variable costs and paying your crews, there's not a lot of profit left. So honestly, the AJS being up is the biggest indicator of success as well. So when we look at average job size being up, but marketing is flat, that means our marketing team is targeting our ideal customer better than before. Because if we continue to increase our jobs, that means that maybe we're getting more packing services. Maybe we've narrowed down our focus in terms of how we're targeting specific types of customers, and it's working. This is a really good indicator. I don't think that marketing costs should ever be going down any like large measure outside of from a percentage of revenue standpoint, because you want to continue to spend to gain as much market share as possible. Because the reality is, if you don't market, you don't really have a business, or you have a business, but you will plateau in terms of revenue.
Yeah,
When
you have
average
a
job
business,
size,
but you're not leveraging it. It's like, cool, you're just leaving opportunity on the table.
well, yeah, let's look at an example of like Coca-Cola, for example, right? Think about how much money that they spend in advertising, and they're the most recognizable brand in the world. It's not like they're going to take their foot off the gas and do less commercials. If anything, they're going to double down and do more. The only reason why they acquire more companies is because then they can spread their advertising dollars, so not everything is a Coke commercial, and it could be a Fuse commercial or one of the other brands that they own. When we look at average job size being down, but marketing is going up, For me, what I see is that we're discounting to get jobs on the schedule and eroding margins. So if this is happening during the winter months and it's a bit slower, then I understand as to why we're discounting in order to get jobs, just to make sure that our guys are working and that we can have as big of a crew going into the 120 days of summer or 100 days of summer, depending on which market that you're in. But at the same time, if your average job size is going down in your peak months, which is, I would say, May to September, and your marketing cost is going up, that means that you're just discounting in order to get jobs, and your salespeople need to have a review in terms of their internal processes. There should be little to no discounting in the days of summer because that is the one time in the moving industry where demand outpaces supply, and that's where we're supposed to make our money. So if we're driving down our costs and our costs are going up, we will not make any money, and we no longer have a business. When average job size is down and marketing is flat, we're discounting to get jobs and we're losing brand recognition against our competition. And the indicator of that is like if we're spending the same amount of money as last year, we should technically roughly get the same amount of average job size. Maybe you'll get less packing jobs, but the average customer that you're bringing in shouldn't variate that much. It's not like you're doing a radically different marketing campaign in order to gain market share. Next, let's look at discount percentage and what it tells you. So, discount percentage of revenue should be no more than 5%. When I say no discount percentage of revenue, that means on a P&L. Like if you look at your P&L and you look at discount percentage as a line item, it should never be more than 5%. And this doesn't mean just job like discounts directly on a job to book a job. This can be customer experience where the move went longer than expected, and you're negotiating with the customer and they're only willing to pay you 80% of the value. Okay, these types of things happen. But if you can keep it less than 5%, then you've got a fighting chance to have a business that'll generate over 10% NOI, which is overall the goal. If your discount rate is below 5%, that means you're providing great experiences. And honestly, you can consider raising your prices. I know it seems a bit counterintuitive to think like, okay, if I don't have to discount, doesn't that mean my pricing is right? Well, yes and no, because the cost of everything is going up. I'm pretty sure a carton of eggs is still $9 in the US, which would be like $18 Canadian. So if they can charge that much for eggs, you can consider raising your prices. For me, you move me. I think about raising prices at least once a year, if not twice a year, because the reality is, if I'm paying more everywhere else, why can't I charge more in moving? It's not like we're all flourishing and jumping in pools of cash every single day. If your discount rate is above 5%, you're not providing enough value to your customers and you're leaning towards discounts to get them booked. Now, this might not be the case all of the time, but if there's a pretty consistent rate of discounts, especially all throughout the year, that means that either you might be priced a little bit too high, which means you should just review your pricing policies. Otherwise, that discounts are the leading indicator for why you're getting jobs. So some of the tactics you can consider is cap the total number of discounts that can be given in each month. And this can vary every single month, right? Like you could say, okay, we're going to do a maximum of 20 discounts in December and November, but we're going to do a maximum of 5 discounts in June or July. You can also change the maximum discount percentage based on the month of the year. No discounts in summer, up to 10% in the winter. It's not to say that discounting is bad. We have to make sure that we have a big enough team and our guys get enough hours. The frontline workers, if we didn't have them, we wouldn't have a business. So we need to do right by them and not focus on profitability on every job, but also strike a balance that we're not discounting too often, but we're also giving them enough hours to stay with us all year round. Another thing you can do is you can provide a bonus commission to agents that book all jobs with no discounts in a month. Because if you think about it, if they're discounting jobs, let's say 5% on average, and you give them a bonus of, let's say, 2%, well, you're still netting 3% in additional profit. So that's not to say that you can't share something. And why not reward your top performers by making sure that they help you protect your margin as best as possible?
I love go back to this. I love, and I want you guys to take a second if you've kind of been checking out, or this is really important right here. One of the things I love about this is we're not Prob's not saying no discounts. You shouldn't discount. You're so valuable. Don't discount. And what I love about that is it's very colorful when it comes to business decisions. We're talking about how do we meet consumers in an economic time to bring as much value to them. And sometimes you lose a little bit of that deal and sometimes you win. And it's part of that good faith effort of bringing value to the community. And one of my favorite things about this is it's very clear of like, one, how many of us actually have on our P&L tracking discounts, or how many of us just looks at revenue that hits the bank? I think that's really important to think through of like, if this is a discount, we need to be tracking this somewhere, whether it's on our P&L or a dashboard. And then what decisions do I need to make from this? Hey, our discounts are so low. Great, you're providing a great service. Raise your prices. What a great way to raise prices. When do you ever hear somebody say, well, I think you should raise prices? How come? Look at your discount KPI. That's rarely ever talked about. This is the fantastic part. And it gives you a benchmark to go, hey, we're actually discounting a little bit more. So I love this. Thanks for putting this slide together. This is really impactful when it comes to decision making. So thank you.
Thank you. Next, let's just talk about labor percentage and what it tells you is the biggest variable cost in our business. So you want to build crews around the lowest average labor rate, not around the best crews. I understand this is a bit of a controversial statement because like you want to put the best crews possible on the most complex jobs. Sure, but if you do that every single time, your labor will never actually meet the markers that you need it to. So there has to be some consideration, and you have to focus more about rounding out your team and lifting the floor of what a good mover looks like. Focus on training so you don't always have to think about best crews. Every crew member should be part of the best crew. A good way to look at it is also forecasting your labor 7 days in advance to see how you're pacing. You want to compare and adjust daily because jobs get booked in, but at the same time, like I want to know how many teammates I need to not be in overtime on that week at all times. You can also leverage automation tools like AI and CRMs to optimize labor and operations can do a spot check. One of the things that we've done at MoveRight is we built a labor optimizer with AI. And so we can build the lowest average labor rate, and I guarantee you it'll be lower than any of your ops people can do on an average basis within 2 seconds. And the average operations manager looks all day at that schedule every single day, making adjustments and everything. It's not to say that I want you to always have that, whatever we set it as, is to use that as what the schedule should go out as. But we want it to go to the lowest average. And then for the operations managers to be like, okay, this is great. Now I have my foundation. And now let me move crews around to make sure that I feel comfortable with what's there, but it'll still give me a lower average labor output than if I did it on my own. What I'm seeing so far is we can lower the average labor rate in a business by 3 to 5%. And so shout out to MoveRight and my team. What we're building is just a small snippet of what we're going to continue to innovate on. But imagine if I told you I could bring 3 to 5% back to your NOI for your business, it would radically transform it. Next, let's look at fuel percentage. This might vary by state and also by drive time and areas, but the goal is always 3% or less. Always ensure that when you have more than one job on a route, to minimize the drive time as when possible. You can do this with AI in terms of inputting addresses and making sure that smart routing is applied. Always charge dock to dock travel time. One of the mistakes that we made when we launched You Move Me, I would say, is we had a flat rate travel fee. And while it was a great brand promise, it only really works if the customer is within an hour variance, right? 30 minutes there, 30 minutes back. But what it doesn't take into account is traffic, right? Some of the markets that we're in have some of the worst traffic that you can imagine. So if we're going to flat rate the drive time at 30 minutes to come back from a job, but it's going to take our guys an hour and 30 minutes, I'm going to have to eat a full hour of labor with up to 3 guys in each truck, or 4 guys or 5 guys, depending on how many guys are in each truck. And that cost isn't absorbed by the customer. It eats away at my profit. And we're not making a lot of money on each job, right? We make money based on volume. So these small optimizations can make a huge a huge difference. One of the things you can also consider is like, okay, you're charging dock to dock, but if the drive time is over 1 hour, consider a fuel surcharge. I mean, when I mail a letter in the post office, they charge me a fuel surcharge. So if they're going to charge me to deliver mail, I might have to charge to deliver their goods in the truck as well. And consider fuel as part of a consumables fee. I'll go into the consumables fee a bit later, but at the same time, this is something that's being consumed in order for you to do the job. So it's not like you're trying to get them to fill up your truck to full. You're just trying to make sure that your costs are covered when it comes to that. Think about when
Yeah.
you rent a car too, right? Like when you return a car, you don't return it at the same gas that whatever's left in the tank. You have to fill it up to what the expectation was, and that cost is borne on you. It's not borne on the rental company. Go ahead, Travis.
All right, so I'm going to play some fun tension game here. So you're saying this, and as a business owner, this makes
You just muted there, Travis.
All right, so this new mic has this really cool feature where you can just click mute right here. Horrible placement for it though. I've done that so many times. So as a business owner, this makes sense. Like I jive with this. But as a consumer and a professional mover who's moved 4 times in 8 years, there's a part of me that's like, I don't like fees. Like emotionally, the economical thing is like I don't like fees. And so how would you walk me through that, or how would you walk through an objection when you're telling me this over the phone? Like how would you teach people here to walk through someone like me who goes, okay, that's a lot of fees. Like why not just raise the prices a little bit? And I get why, but I'd love to hear a little bit more of like walking me through that objection like I'm on a sales call, or just what you're thinking through.
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think it's kind of a blend, right? Like I think in a lot of markets, customers are kind of expecting fees to be a part of it, and they expect fuel surcharges to be a normal part of business, right? And so, if you're in a market where you think that fuel surcharges might have some pushback, just increase your travel time distance, right? Like you can add 15 minutes to your travel time, and that'll offset what a fuel surcharge would cost. And you
Mm,
can tell customers that we're not driving a normal vehicle, we're transporting your materials from your home from point A to point B. We want to move it as efficiently as possible. Therefore, we have to drive slower. Our trucks consume a lot of fuel, and we have to be considerate of that cost when we're operating our business. And one of the things I actually tell customers on a regular basis is like, moving companies actually don't make a lot of money. On a job by job basis, we're just trying to do the best job possible. And so we just ask for a little bit of consideration for us to make sure that we can do the best job possible for you when it involves moving your goods from point A to point B. Another thing is like you can leverage fuel to be part of a consumables fee. So instead of having a fuel surcharge and a consumables fee, just blend it all together. There's a lot of little optimizations you can do. And let's say that you had added you've added travel time to the job because it's a greater distance, and a customer, the point of contention is a $50 fuel surcharge, right? Take off the fuel surcharge for that job. But for the customers that don't complain about it, then and it's not a point of contention, well then you've made that profit back. You're not going to lose the job over $50, but if you get that $50 on the overall arching amount of jobs, then you're in a good spot. I think a
I think
lot of it.
go
Sorry,
ahead.
bud. No, it's just like we get this with credit cards and transaction fees, right? It's like we understand that you don't want to pay the 3% for a transaction fee. No problem. Would you like to pay by cash?
Yeah. So I do like that, and I do like where you're going with that, and I just think there's a healthy. I think that you've answered, I think, in a really good way to, and I think the key out of all of that, in my opinion, is optimize. You can optimize what you need to charge, and just put it differently to a consumer to make it less painful. And so anybody who wants to dig in more on this, Duke University, Dan O'Reilly has a behavioral economics course that's for free, and it's phenomenal on this. But I think the key is like optimize this, work with this, but have a great, yeah, I think that's great. Hey, do you want to pay with cash? Okay. No, I don't. Okay. Well, then here's your fee. So I get that. Cool. Moving on.
Supply sales. So what it tells you, I would say the goal is 5% minimum. Typically in our markets, we see decent performers at the 3 to 5% range. We see great performers 5 to 8% range. Some people might disagree with me on this, but I like commissioning truck team members for supply sales sold on site. What I do in a lot of my markets is I just increase the price of supplies that we charge for to cover the commission rate. So let's say I wasn't giving a commission rate before. I want to give 20% commission for every supply that they sell. I'm just going to increase the prices of my supplies by 25%.
What,
No
what's,
one's going to, sorry, go ahead.
but what, but why? Why are people disagreeing?
They think that like it incentivizes people to be like to push customers into trying to get every customer to like buy more supplies on site, and they might try to oversell customer supplies. But at the same time, it's like it's the assurance that there's not going to be a damage on the job. And movers, bless their hearts, if they've been on 6, 7 days in a row of long days, corners are going to be cut because they're exhausted and they just want to get home. And I don't blame them
Mm,
for it. But
hmm.
if I can give them an added incentive just to make sure that they don't cut that corner, then it helps me. I can try to do profit share, but if profit share is over a longer period, let's say on a biweekly cycle or a monthly cycle, they got to wait 2 weeks for something that might not come. But on a per job basis, if they know that they can make some money, it helps them. Another way to make sure that you can actually sell supplies on each job is just making sure that every truck has the standard supplies for every single job. And if they come back with less items than they charge for, then that just gets taken out of their commissions. We're not in the business for them to give stuff away. We're in the business to pay them a commission for stuff that they sell. You can also charge a consumables fee to cover shrink and tape. Shrink is used on every single job. We can't reuse shrink. We can't reuse tape. Same thing with fuel. Once you do a job, you can't reuse it. So that's something you can do. You could charge a dollar amount, $20, $30, or a percentage of revenue. We've been doing a consumables fee in all of our locations for a long time, and customers don't really notice the cost of it. Like if they've got a $5,000 move and they see a 3% line item, they're like, okay, that makes sense because you still gotta buy the materials. And if they're like, oh, why do you have to charge me this fee? I'm like, well, I could charge you more on my hourly rate to cover that cost, but the cost has got to be covered.
Yeah. Also, if you're in California, I think Ted said great point about you're in California. I feel like you could charge fees for whatever. It's California. It's a fee for everything. A fee for the environment. A fee for walking on this sidewalk. So charge a fee, Ted. Okay, go on.
Thank you. So train with expectations. Every lampshade should go in a box. Every TV should go in a TV box, and every mattress and box spring should go in a mattress bag. To me, it shouldn't be a conversation. It should be an expectation. You can map out how much money they can make by having a TV rental, a few mattress bags on every job, and a few boxes sold. It adds up very quickly, especially when they're working full time. It's just a nice bonus that they can make that doesn't cost you anything because you've already offset the cost of that with the price increase. And also, then when you look at supply costs as a percentage of revenue, your supply cost might be 5%, but at minimum, if your supply sales is 5%, then you've effectively erased that to be a net zero cost, right? Because it's covering the cost of it through revenue. But if you get it above that, let's say you get 6, 7, 8%, then you're actually treating it as a profit center, which is great because that'll add a little bit to your margin. At bare minimum, we want to just make sure our supply costs are covered because we shouldn't absorb that cost in our P&L because there's not enough money left at the end of the day after all of our other costs are paid.
I'm loving all this going. Just so you know, you have about 9 minutes because we want to leave a little bit of time at the end for questions and answers. So for those of you guys, as you've been thinking through this, as you start thinking through how do I apply this, share the questions or share the insights you like. We'll get the Q&As at the end. I know we already have a few coming in, but all right, thanks.
Awesome. Thanks for the time check. I'm going to go a little bit quicker. So let's look at gross profit. The goal is 55% minimum. I know I showed 50% in the earlier slide, but on a per job basis, I want to be at 55%. You want to ask yourself, is my labor managed the lowest to its lowest average through AI or CRM? If yes, but if it's still under 55%, am I charging enough? There's only so much optimizing you can do on labor, but if the math isn't mathing, then you have to charge more. Are my routes optimized to reduce drive time? Are my crews charging for all the supplies used on site? And is my AJS increasing proportionally with the cost of each year? If your AJS is flat and your costs are going up, like the cost of supplies every year seems to go up multiple times a year, then you're not charging enough for what you have. Let's look at NOI. This is a term that's used a lot in private equity deals when you're looking at actually having a moving company acquired. The target NOI that I look at is between 10 and 20%. If you have a business under 10% NOI, there's a very low likelihood that anyone is going to acquire you unless you have a huge discount that you're willing to provide and you're willing to sell or finance the whole deal. We understand that this is a big number, but at the same time, like I'm not here to buy your business if it doesn't make any money. And that's the end of it, really. If it's under 10%, it's not going to be a good enough business to attract anyone to purchase. There's no lineup of people buying moving companies. However, I'm one of the few people that are. So if you have a company that's achieving a 10 to 20% NOI, my email is going to be at the end. I'm looking at buying and I'm happy to talk to you. But under 10% need not apply. One thing I'll say with that too is we want to see a consistent NOI over a minimum of 3 years because you can have a really good NOI 1 year and then you can grow a bunch and then your NOI is completely erased. We want to see consistency in business. Otherwise, we don't want to buy your business. Anyone can have a really great year and then when they scale, all those costs come in and their profit is eroded. I want to go over some sales center KPIs. These are some of the ones that I look at and I think are very important. Answer rate. So that's the total number of inbound calls that are being answered, not sales calls, total inbound calls that are being answered. Connect rate is what percentage of your website form fills are you actually having a conversation with. This doesn't count as a text saying, hey, I just want to reach out to you about your move. Sorry, I've already moved. That's not a conversation. Speed to lead. How fast are you getting a hold of these customers once they submit their information? Estimate rate. How many people are you actually giving how many people are your salespeople giving an estimate to that they actually speak with? And not just a phone estimate. This is my number one pet peeve in business when they think a phone estimate counts as an estimate. I want to see a PDF document attached to that customer's file. Otherwise, we're going to have a conversation. And finally, the net conversion number. I don't like to do it based on gross conversion because when you base it on gross conversion, say the number of total sales calls, then you rely on the agent to tell you what was a sales call. I want to look at it based on all my sales calls going into one number, or I'll do it over total calls. I'm not leaving it up to anyone else to decide what the net conversion is. I get to decide. In terms of answer rate, what does great look like? Great is 85%. If your answer rate's between 80 and 85%, that means some additional staffing might be needed for peak call periods. If your answer rate is between 75 and 80%, that means you're either understaffed or agent's average handle time is too long. Anything under 75%, that means you're getting too many phone calls and you need to maybe spend less on marketing and fix your sales center operation. You might think that 85 is too low of a number. I implore everyone to get to 85% and then come have a conversation with me. It's the principle of like, if you look at the Pareto principle, right? It's like 80, get to 80% efficiency because the last 20% takes the most amount of time anyways. And there's a lot of fires that we're always putting out. I can tell you if you get to an 85% answer rate, you're doing a good job and you're servicing your leads in a great manner. When it comes to connect rate, this is for form fills. The goal is 70%. This is actual conversations with them, not text. I understand text is the lowest barrier to entry, but I want you to have a conversation with the person. If it's below 70%, that means your speed to lead time is too slow and you're not following up with your leads enough. We're not in a business that you think that if someone fills out a form that they're going to answer on the first attempt. They're not going to answer on the second attempt. It'll take a minimum of 3, typically, in my experience. And then trying after 4 or 5 times is largely a waste of time because they don't want to talk to you anyways, and you just took too long to get a hold of them. If your connect rate's below 50%, though, you're spending way too much money on marketing and you need to focus on fixing your sales center operation. Why would you pay that much in marketing if you're only connecting with 1 in every 2 people? It's just a waste of money. And it's a waste of time, in my opinion.
You're literally doubling your marketing cost in not directly, but indirectly doubling your marketing cost if you've got a 50% speed to lead, right? It's like, all right, well, you're spending $3,000 a month. Now it's $6,000. You're spending $6,000 a month. Now it's $12,000.
Exactly. Then estimate rate. So this is something that's like very near and dear to my heart is like, I see too often in sales centers that they do a phone estimate and then there's no PDF to follow up with. How can I tell you to go do your follow-ups if there's no estimate attached to the customer's file? So you want to have 70% of the people that you talk to getting an estimate. I understand some people might just want to talk to you about rates, but it's not going to be that high of a percentage. If it's that high of a percentage, that's a conversation with your marketing agency. And if your estimate rate is below 50%, that means that your sales agents are cherry picking what customers to provide estimates to, and they're just trying to pad their numbers. Like, I want to make sure that's worth my effort. We gotta inspect what we expect. Net conversion. So based on my experience, 35% minimum is the goal. I understand that some people might say they have 40%, 50%, 60% conversion. I'd love to see your numbers. I'd love to see it based on total inbound calls, and I'd love to review if that number is correct. And if it is, well, clearly you're doing something right and I'm missing something. But at the same time, this is what we strive towards. That means that 1 in every 3 leads that you're paying for, that you're booking a job, which seems pretty consistent with the average cost per acquisition that we see. And if your conversion rate is below 25%, you need serious attention on your sales process because then it goes from 1 in every 3 leads to 1 in every 4 leads. That means you have to advertise even more just to do the same amount of revenue. If you can get it above 35%, then there's a really good marketing mix, and maybe you don't have to spend that much on marketing because you've got a really strong brand reputation. The marketing KPIs that I like to focus on are cost per lead, cost per acquisition, return on ad spend, and ad spend as a percentage of revenue. So a CPL under $50, it means strong local branding and mostly branded clicks. Now these vary a lot market by market, but this is what I've seen in my experience. $50 to $100 means that you're doing an okay job, but you're getting a mix of branded and non-branded. But anything over $100 means that you're doing not a really good job of being a local dominator, and you need to focus on ground game more because every lead that you're buying is a generic term because no one's searching your company name. Cost per acquisition, you want to see it typically $80 and below, because if you do that, then that means that you have a really strong business. You have a strong reputation, you have a strong sales process. Your local ground game is doing a really good job of bringing customers in. You have a really good referral rate, and you've got a good mix of referral and repeat customers offsetting what you're spending in marketing. Acquisitions above $160 means you are in a highly competitive area. You're not getting enough branded search, and there's some clear opportunities to improve the sales process. You basically will not have a business if you continue out that trajectory unless you can charge enough to offset that cost. ROAS, so this is the return on ad spend. So what is the ratio of what you're spending to what you're bringing back in? For me, what we see is top in class, of 8.0 or over. Typically in our markets, we see a five to eight, and that's depending on certain campaigns. It's not like all of your campaigns will return that ROAS, but some of your strongest campaigns might return a ROAS of eight. But I would set the expectation of, let's say, three to eight overall. Anything under three, though, it's poor campaign performance and it's questionable sales process. You're not generating enough revenue off of what you're spending to have a business to have any profit left over. You could sustain and you could probably break even and lose money in your slow months, but then you don't have a business.
Oh, you've got to go back. You can't put a slide on ROAS and not let me talk here.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to be like that,
I
considerate of time
know.
as
It's
well.
so good. We're locked in. So this is great. I will say that I did not say anything about this ROAS. And I would tend to agree that this is a very accurate depiction of ROAS. 3 to 5, I would say 3 to 4, but it also, like Prob said, depends on the thing. Google Ads, I would tell people right now, if you're going and getting 5 times ROI or return on ad spend for Google Ads, this is ad spend per se. Return on ad spend at 5 times Google Ads, you're in a good place. But what I loved about this is it's both and. It's, hey, you might have a low performance campaign and a strong sales process. You might have a good campaign, but a poor sales process. And so marketing and sales is tied hip by hip. And so you've got to be very intentional to look at both and use both data points to look at that. SEO, we see usually a higher return on spend on ROI because it's such a snowball effect. Where Google Ads, it's a little lower. Love this slide. Thank you.
No problem. And one thing I wanted to mention now that I have a bit more time is when your fixed costs are paid off, you can take a lower ROAS, right? But the number one goal of driving a ROAS of 5 to 8 is to make sure that you have enough profit to cover your fixed costs. But then after that, your gross profit becomes net profit, right? So then there's a little bit more tolerance on taking some lower ROAS campaigns. But at the same time, you want to have a strong average to start the month, and then it can round out a little bit lower. But overall, you'll still make money at that stage.
Yeah, and I will say too on that one topic, I do want to just drive home the point. You have your own business that you get to do whatever you want to do with it. And so I've got business owners who go 5 times a ROAS or I'm not playing the game. Great. I have other business owners that go, I'll take 3 times ROAS from November to March because I want to keep people employed. So there's intentionality of your ROAS during the different seasons. Like that's how you go from business owner to an extremely good business owner, is you have that intentionality in the seasons of why you're doing something. And that's something that you just always ask yourself, why are we doing this? What is the intention behind this? A ROAS of 5 is great. A ROAS of 3 can be great if you have that as a desire to go, I just want to keep people employed during the slower season and not have to let go of people. So anyway, thank you. Okay.
Thanks, Travis. Next would be ad spend as a percentage of revenue. So your total marketing costs all in. If you have it under 8%, you've got a knockout business. You've got really strong brand reputation, really strong marketing, and you've got a good business. Now, this is the caveat of this is like your revenue has to sustain the business level that you want to operate, right? If you're in plateau mode, you're in a good spot. But if you want to grow, you're not going to have an ad spend under 8%. It's not going to happen. 8 to 12% is what I would say is probably the mix. If you're in growth mode and you're willing to forego profit at the expense of growth, then it's 12 to 16%. But anything over 16% over a longer period, you're gonna burn yourself into the ground. You need to make sure that you're doing enough locally to offset your ad spend, because if you don't have referral and repeat customers, and if you don't have branded clicks, you're not going to have a business. We cannot rely on Google to drive all of our business, because think about how many moving companies are out there that fly by night, that just come out of nowhere, run for a couple of years, and then shut down. Well, those ones are the ones that are bidding on these clicks on non-brand, and then they go under, and we're the ones that are trying to survive. And the fight of survival is longevity. How do you build longevity? You build really good brand reputation. The last thing I want to go over is customer experience KPIs. Review rate, the percentage of jobs that we get with a review; damage rate, the percentage of jobs with a damage; and star score, the overall rating on Google reviews. I understand there's Yelp and all these other platforms, but honestly, I only care about Google, so that's all I'm going to talk about. Review rate, I'd say the gold standard is 25% and above. That means that your crews know how to do a move with a 5-star service, but also they know how and when to ask a customer for a review. I think that is equally more important than actually doing a 5-star move. Is you have to know when to ask the customer and make sure that you get the review on site. You can have your teams call, you can do lead nurturing via text and all of that stuff, but why? Just do it on site. Get the review. You moved me. This is a plug of how great you moved me is now. I'm sorry, but we have I think it's over 35,000 5-star reviews across 21 locations. Kansas City is about to break 10,000 reviews on Google. Try and find me a moving company with 10,000 Google reviews, a single location. So clearly asking on site works, and it's been a big driver of ours, and it'll always be. We will always win the game in terms of customer experience in any market that we go in, because we are so laser focused when it comes to that. Damage rate of 2% or lower means that you're operating in a good standard, and you should be generating a review rate of 25% or higher. If your damages are above 2%, your review rate is just going to go down, and it's actually going to start costing you a lot of money. Visibility framework. So just to recap this, what gets seen gets improved. Owners need a scorecard and teams need transparency. Track daily, measure weekly, review monthly, adjust quarterly. Track daily, measure weekly, review monthly, adjust quarterly. Continuous improvement is the key to success. Think about the age-old principle of Kaizen in Japanese manufacturing. Same thing applies to moving. Have transform in mindset. Clear visibility transform your business from being reactive to proactive. I can't stress this enough. I always used to be reactive, didn't know how to really run a business. When I became proactive and playing offense all the time, that's what changed everything. And remind your team it's a marathon, not a race. It's going to take a lot of time, but through constant iteration, you'll get there. When you're looking at all these KPIs, just pick 5 KPIs to start with. Once you gain confidence and consistency in tracking these results and perform at near the goal, add some more. Don't try and track everything at once. So to close, you can't scale what you don't measure, but the moment you start measuring the right number, growth becomes predictable. Data doesn't replace leadership, it amplifies it. And nothing happens overnight. Get your reps, conquer the world. Travis, I'll pass it back to you for the Q&A.
Holy moly. First off, thank you so much. Everyone put a thank you to Prob for putting this together. I did not put this together. My team did not put this together. He put this together, and he put so much time and effort in it. It shows. And I think any of you guys who are sitting here going, I didn't learn anything. I couldn't put anything in this place into my business. I think you're going cuckoo machukus because this was so good. So start putting in your Q&As. We already have some, but before we go into that, I think it's a perfect segment. You've talked about these KPIs. Walk me through MoveRight a little bit. For those of you guys who don't know MoveRight, I'd love to just hear, like, why MoveRight? Why do you use MoveRight? What have you done for yourself on this? And, how do these KPIs plug into that?
Yeah, thanks for that. So Me was using Vonago for the first 10 years of operation. And Vonago is largely fine as a CRM, but it's not specific to moving. And we wanted full control over the data cycle, right? We wanted to be vertically integrated in understanding what inputs we need for our business. I was growing increasingly tired of being like, hey, Vonago, can you build a custom report to show me this? And then when I would look at our competitors, no slight to Super Moving or Super Move or Smart Moving, they have tons of features, but they had too many features for me to focus on. So when we were building MoveRight, we wanted to focus on building features that would help our franchisees, but also help independent moving companies. I've got 12 years under my belt. I've seen You Move Me grow. I've from sub 20 million to 50 million this year. We're on track to hit 100 million in a few years, and it'll be great. But we wouldn't be able to do it without MoveRight. MoveRight is now focused on building automations around operations teams. We think ops managers are have the second hardest job behind the frontline movers, right? They're constantly being berated with all the tasks that they need to do. If we can lower the amount of time that they're spending doing admin and make it automated through AI, well, then they're going to be 10x operations managers. We want to make it so that every single teammate you have is a 10x teammate. I don't want to replace people's jobs. I want to just make them more effective. So if we've got a $3 million company with 5 people, I want it to be a $5 million company with that same team. Because you know what? Then there's going to be more profit, and then you can pay those guys more. And they deserve it because they're leveraging the efficiency that they're gaining through our platform. The other great thing about MoveRight is we're not venture backed, so we don't charge as much as the average moving software. And average moving companies don't have a CEO at the helm that's been running a moving company for the last 12 years. So there's magic behind it, and I'm very grateful for the experience. I'm grateful for my team at MoveRight. 2026 will be a very, very big year for you, MoveMe, but it'll be an even bigger year for MoveRight. So thank you for that.
I love that. I hope you guys see the intentionality that Prob has. It's not like, oh, we've got a CRM and what it's like. There's intentionality of what is it there for? How are we building this? How do we make this an intentional platform to help us? It's built for them, which I think is so great. Some of the best things are built for yourself, and then it's like, well, this is so valuable. So if someone was like, hey, I'd love to see more about that, where do they see more information about MoveRight?
Yeah, so there's a slide with my contact information, but I'll add it here. So just send me an email. One other thing that I wanted to mention outside of MoveRight is MoveMe has been focused a lot in expanding into long distance. We didn't do long distance up until 2 years ago. So we have 21 locations, but we don't have representation in all 50 states in every major metro. So if anyone's an independent moving company that wants to partner with MoveMe in terms of long distance moving, please come talk to me. If you have long distance moving leads that you can't service in your market, contact me. I'll buy them from you. I don't want the leads that you pay for to get given to a competitor or for them to go away. If I can give you money back that you can reinvest into marketing and get more local jobs, go for it. But I will build the largest network of independent moving companies doing long distance moves, bigger than van lines by the end of 2026. So if you want to partner with me, partner with me. I'm David. They're Goliath. I will take down Goliath. Mark my words.
Are you gonna have like a cool outfit on too with a rope and everything? I would
I
also
think
pay
the
for
outfit
that.
will come when I take the number one spot. I think the outfit's just a natural progression.
There you go. I love it. Well, thank you. Let's go to some Spitfire Q&As real quick. First Q&A says, Travis, can you say Kuku Machuku 5 times fast? Okay, I won't do that. First question is, what is your markup on supplies?
That's a good question. It varies so much by market, honestly, because like everyone pays a different amount for supplies. I don't think the markup necessarily matters. Just make sure that it's a reasonable amount that you can cover a commission and cover your costs, and then there's still some profit going back to you. It's a good question, but it's really just a percentage of what your tolerance would be, right?
Yeah.
So make sure there's enough for the cost to be recovered. Make sure there's enough for your teammates to get something, and make sure that there's a little bit for you at the end. So if all of those criteria are met, then you're charging the right amount. And make
And
sure that customers are willing to pay for it. If they're willing to pay for it, then it doesn't matter.
yes, I was going to say that. I think it's also really important. Maybe don't get caught up too much on a certain percentage of markup. Like you might have an audience that goes, sure, I'll pay $4 a box or whatever it is. I don't know if that's high or low, but it's like there's a demand and there's a time that you're super stressed, and the less you have to worry about, the more you'll pay. And this is a great time called moving. And so you might be able to take advantage of a bigger markup than other people do in other markets. So look at what the market is willing to pay, what your consumers are willing to pay. And that may go up and down through the seasons or through the years. When it comes to consumables fee, I heard you say it can be a flat dollar amount or percentage of sales. If it's going to be a percentage of sales, what would that percentage be?
Yeah, so this one's contingent on how good your salespeople are. I think like starting at 3% is probably reasonable. We charge 5% in some locations. We charge as high as 8% in some locations. It's also what do you want to include in it, right? So you can charge a higher consumables fee and include mattress bags, and then you don't have to sell mattress bags on site. And customers are like, oh, really? Like I get a free TV box rental and I get free mattress bags? That's great. The costs are all recovered. Think about adding 8% to every single job that you do. It adds up.
I love that. Yeah, I that's the emotional economics right there. Oh my gosh, I don't have to do that. That's amazing. You're charging me for it. It just I don't feel that pain of that charge, which I love. The more you can do that, the better. What should fully burdened labor percentage be? Mikhail coming in with some great questions.
Great question. Once again, it varies by market. Like I've seen it as low as like I think 22% on average to upwards of 28%. In California, it's really difficult. Get it under 30 at the very least. Because under 30, like then we can start to look at what the tolerance actually is. But I would say if your labor is above 30% burden in consistently, then there's a conversation about am I charging enough? I think you could probably get to 32 as the highest end. But then think about it like there's not a lot of tolerance left, right? Let's say you're going for 50% gross margin, right? And labor eats 32% of that cost, then your fixed costs have to like your remaining variable costs and your fixed costs can only be 18%, and otherwise it's gone. There's nothing left.
I love it. Okay. So we got two more questions left. Put your questions in before we end this webinar if you want it to be answered. But I'm going to do a quick segment for those of you guys who are like, hey, I want the presentation. You'll get the presentation. We'll put that online. If you go to rotatedigital.com/webinars, you will get that. But Prob has given us another great gift. And what he's done is made a stupidly simple revenue profitability KPI sheet. What the KPI should be that you should track, what the goal and the key insight is, or the standard. Hey, goal for supply sales is a minimum 5% or discount at XYZ. And then he's also put in there what it tells you, which again, on my pet peeve, I'm so grateful for because it's easy to say you need to track this percentage and why. It's hard to think through like what decisions do you need to make? What is this actually telling you? And he's put this together. And so we've got revenue and profitability KPIs, sales center KPIs, marketing KPIs, and improvements there. And so you'll get that document when we go live on the webinar. You'll be able to download that. So super appreciate that. Thank you for doing that. Next couple questions here. What has YouMoveMe's best ROAS been? Is it in a marketing channel? Is it Google Ads, Yelp, business development, etc.?
I would say we put the most effort towards Google because it has the biggest customer flow. And so that would generate the best ROAS in terms of overall performance. I think in certain markets, certain things can work better for people, but at the same time, for us, the domains that we typically play in are the largest marketplaces. We don't focus as much on awareness. We focus on direct leads flowing in. And so if you're a small local business and you've got really good returns on Yelp, then do Yelp. But at the same time, I'm not going to say that YouMoveMe focuses on Yelp in every single market.
Great. And then how do you compensate your operation manager? Salary, hourly, what bonuses, KPIs, labor percentages? Like how are you compensating, thinking through that?
Yeah, so all of our operations people make a regular salary, and then we try to give a bonus based on gross margin. If you're achieving an overall gross margin because you're managing your labor costs very well, then there's tolerance to pay you more. You should structure all of your teammates to be being paid based on either NOI or gross margin, because if they're managing gross margin, they're doing their part, and if you're managing the fixed cost properly, then you're doing your part, and it'll translate to better NOI. But I'm a big believer that if there's meat on the bone, then everyone should eat. But if there's no meat on the bone, then there's not really enough to go around. We're not in the business of doing this for people to have a job. We're in the business to make money. Like, and it's not even a selfish thing to say. Like, I want us all to get rich, and we're not going to get rich by breaking even.
Yeah. And oh, by the way, when you make money and you make profit, you have more stability in your company, which means you have better job security for people who want job security, and you get to provide better for your team members, and they get to put food on their table consistently, pay their bills consistently. And oh, by the way, on top of that, A players who outperform, you have great ways to incentivize them, pay them more, and keep them around. And you cannot do any of this without profit and revenue. Like this is the cycle. So it is like we get compensated for value. That's what's amazing. But also, you have to have that margin, or you don't have a business. And I think Prob would agree. Would you agree on that?
Yeah, 100%. No margin, no business. We should get that as a T-shirt with the AI agent thing that you're saying.
Okay,
no AI
margin,
assistance.
yeah, exactly. I have a few T-shirts today we got to create. Here's my question. Last question. Do you see ChatGPT becoming a major player for potential customers to be finding us? That's from Mikhail again.
Yeah, for sure. It's continuing to drive more and more search, right? So it goes back to like, how is ChatGPT going to rank you versus like a regular search engine? And it's going to have to have more reference points, and reviews are going to play an even bigger factor, right? Although we focus most on Google reviews, we'll take reviews on Better Business Bureau, on Yelp, on Facebook, and all of those places, because the combination with the highest reviews will have the highest likelihood of indexing. And if not ChatGPT, it's going to be Gemini. The future of search is going to change, right? So we don't know what that will look like, but at the same time, you can think of a castle with a moat, right? You have to create a moat around your business for people to keep coming back to you for a reason. I would say we have moats in a lot of our locations because no one will ever catch Kansas City in terms of number of reviews anytime soon, right? So if they say, what is the highest rated moving company in Kansas City? You Move Me Kansas City is the clear winner. And I don't care if you go on Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini, I don't know, whatever else is out there. The facts are the facts, right? So despite whatever the change in search terms are, customers are always going to want a good experience, and they're not going to want to talk to many other people if the number one company they talk to has 5,000 more reviews than the average company.
Yeah. And I'd add this, if I may. We track this for all of our clients. So we got 150 clients across the country, and we track this. Google is still the number one volume provider when it comes to leads and booked moves and jobs. And I can't tell you the volume that's going to come in AI and how quickly, but I can tell you this, that people do trust what AI spits out. And so the conversion rate on AI right now is very high. Now, again, a 70% conversion rate on 20 leads for the month, fantastic, amazing. But when you can get a lot more leads through Google, you've got to play where the leads are at. That being said, they trust them. So keep that in mind. Like, the trust is high. The leads may be low right now, but the trust is high. So I want to end it here. John had a great question, and maybe I'll just let you answer that on a quick feedback. But John, I know you're looking for a deeper answer. Dare I say, Prob would be willing to answer that on an email if you email him that. But John said this: been in business for 20 years. We are prorated based with additional fees for distance and stairs. We stay pretty busy throughout the year, move about 700 houses a year, maybe even more, additional trucks, pods. We have 3 trucks in our fleet. So much marketing. Most business, though, is not much marketing, and most businesses are word of mouth. Besides media marketing, what can we do for like a next step to be even more busier and consistent and promote growth in 2026?
That's a quick and dirty version of the answer, and I'm happy to answer more or talk more about it via email. Is you are limited. I'm a big believer in media and ground game working in conjunction with one another. I don't think you can do one and not the other. I think pick a medium that you're going to want to advertise in and play in that space, but dominate that space that you're going to play in, and also continue to leverage local relationships. It's great that you got a lot of word of mouth referrals, and if that's the way you want to focus on your business, then double down on trade shows, going to real estate offices or mortgage broker offices. Go to your chamber of commerce. Make sure that your name is everywhere. If your name is everywhere and moving is synonymous with your company's name, then you'll drive referrals. But if you're not making the amount of money that you want to make, you have to focus on media.
Cool. Okay. Guys, that is a 2025 wrap. That's a December Prob amazing webinar. Thank you so much for doing this, Prob. I really do appreciate it. I know we got tons of people locked in today. I'll mention this to close out. This may not be as sexy as some of the other webinars, but damn, it is sure as hell valuable, needle moving stuff that you can do in your business. So thank you for doing this. I want to just thank everyone for being here today in December. I want to thank you all for participating and being involved in our webinars. 2025 wraps up right now for Rotate Digital Webinars, coming to an end. And guess what? 2026 is going to be even better. We're doubling down on this. So share this with anybody. Put this live on Facebook groups about how valuable. Get signed up so you get all the notifications. Thank you for being here, Prob. Thank you so much. Really do appreciate
Thank you for hosting me. Appreciate that.
Of course. And you guys take care. Have a wonderful December. A Merry Christmas. We will see you in January. Finish the month strong. The month is not over. Don't give up just because the holiday season is around. Finish strong, guys. We will see ya. Bye.